And then a roll call. So for the record, President Daniels is absent, and Rosie, can you take the roll call for us?
So President Daniels is absent today. Lisette? Pete?
Here.
Brianna?
Here.
Mary Beth?
Here.
Jamie?
Here.
Martin is absent today. Thank you.
And now we're going to move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. And we would invite Jamie from the Half Moon Bay High School to lead us on the pledge. And I'd like to give a moment for Dr. Miramontes to let us with some words.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vice President Cortez. I think this is a great opportunity for us to just take a moment of silence. My understanding was 2 years ago there was an incident here in the community, and I thought it would be nice to honor the families and people that were involved. So we just take a couple minutes for the moment of silence.
All right, thank you. And like Dr. Miramonte said, you know, our hearts go out to the community and the families of the tragedy, and we hope everybody's trying to heal, and we hope that good things come from such a devastating situation here on the coast. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
This passes 4+1.
And we do have, we're switching our agenda a little, as well as our location, and so now we'd like to talk about some of our spotlights on the coast side. So with further ado, Dr. Miramontes, would you like to share this month's spotlight?
Absolutely. When I spoke to the board members about the Half Moon Bay community and its surrounding little cities that are here, they talked very highly of the Coastside Way, right, and the families and involvement. I know that it's really important to have community involvement and engagement to be successful, right? And so what a better way than to have students and their families here and honor them at one of our board meetings. I mean, that is our focus, is you guys. I work for you guys and your parents and, of course, this board as well, right? But you guys are the primary focus of why all the adults here in this community are here. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Leticia Batia, and she will read off the names of the community engagement people and what we're doing here.
Good afternoon, Vice President Cortez, our new board members, our more experienced board members, our extraordinaire new superintendent, Dr. Miramontes, colleagues and community members. Thank you, Dr. Miramontes. I'm honored to be here today to support Dr. Miramontes' vision of being student-centered and making sure that we recognize the success by putting Spotlight the Coastside Way. So today, and you're going to notice part of the agenda, there will be two sections. One to celebrate community engagement and people that have contributed to our community. And then, as Dr. Miramontes said, we're here for you students. We're about you. We all work for you, and we want to make sure this experience here at Cabrillo Unified School Districts really is one that you'll remember when you leave our school districts. And then our staff as well. In the second section, that's school community. Before we start that, we also want to recognize our governing board. January marks as is designated as School Board Recognition Month, and we value the critical civic role that you hold as school board members. We know it is not easy. We know it takes a village, and it's not going to pay your mortgage with the amount that you receive here. But we want to thank you because you're here to help us achieve our vision of a place where all students dream and achieve. And so I am going to call out your names, and if you don't mind coming with Dr. Miramontes, and this is going to be a photo op for the media, so I hope you signed your media release forms. Vice President Lisette Cortez. Where's the camera? Sorry. Peter Cernica, Governing Board Member. Brianna LaFontaine. Mary Beth Alexander. And President Carmen Daniel is not here, but we also want to recognize her. Okay, and so thank you. Thank you for your service to our community. Now, the second area for our spotlight, the Coast Sideways community, are schools. Community engagement spotlight. And we would like to honor 2 community members that in the past year have partnered with Cabrillo Unified School District and help us navigate through some very difficult circumstances, and we thank you for your partnership. So we'd like to recognize John Carey, CUTA Board President. And Holly Lynn, past CSCA Board President. Stop. Okay. And as we mentioned, our students are the center of what we do here at Cabrillo Unified School District, and it takes a village. So now I'm going to turn it to our Cunha Intermediate Principal Extraordinaire, Mr. Jeff Clinton, who will highlight and spotlight a few of the community members.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Is this on? Good evening, Vice President Cortez, members of the board, Dr. Miramontes. I would like to, can everyone hear me? Okay, not gonna lean down. All right, I was asked to highlight some students, and the cross-country team won the league championships. They've improved all year. I went to the league championship and watched them like dig deep, persevere, hurt at the end, and it was fantastic. And they were smoked at the end. They gave every ounce that they had in them, and they won. And it's based on the top 5 girls. So I do think, they just kind of, I guess, show like when you're going for something and you're trying to achieve something, nothing's going to stop you. And Lila, who was kind of the captain of the team, she never lost a race all year. And she qualified for the Junior Olympics. So but the whole team, extremely inspiring. If anyone wants to get inspired, go watch a girls cross country meet. So I would also like to recognize Kurt Murray, who is the coach. Come on up here, Kurt. And the assistant coach, Andrea Bravo. And then I know a few girls are absent, so the ones that are here, I'll announce, and then we'll talk about, just mention the ones that aren't. So downtown, Jesse Brown. Rosie Mickelson, Sophia Serrano, Isabel Cruz, Audrey Cruz, they are sisters, 8th grade and 6th grader, and Lila Tomatias. Who? And Mia Sanders. Emily Sanders, sorry, Emily. I didn't see you back there, sorry, Emily. And Naya Schmidt's not here, Kara Schmutz is not here, and Bernie Pedroza is not here, so they'll get their certificates tomorrow. I shouldn't have sat down. All right, I'm also going to give the Cunha Intermediate School report, but first, thank you all for coming. Congratulations, see you tomorrow at school. So I'm the principal of Cunha. My name is Jeff Clinton, and this is Victor Guzman. He's the assistant principal. And I know this is supposed to be 8 minutes, so I'm going to be quick. This is the agenda. It's just talking about the school, some of the initiatives, things that we think we've done well, one thing that we need to work on, courses, electives, give you kind of a heads up about Cunha this year as opposed to previous years. This is our mission statement, which I will summarize this. I mean, it's just to provide an outstanding environment for young people to become lifelong learners and have a safe environment to do that and motivate them for their future. This is our staff right now. We're at 49. Last year we were at 55, I think, between the classified staff. We're down this year 3 teachers because of enrollment. Last year's enrollment was 544. This year we're at 519. Also, our free and reduced lunch population last year was 246. It's 143 this year, so we're kind of, we need to get that up by families filling out forms because we're going to lose Title I funding if we don't do that. So that is a goal, is to make sure folks fill that paperwork out because it does mean a lot of money for the school. The special ed, the English learner and migrant populations are similar to last year. English learners went down. They went down a little bit, but like special ed was 88 to 81, so it's not that significant given the drop in enrollment. This is our ethnicity breakdown, and the takeaways here, kind of the Hispanic population historically has been, at least since I've been here, 50% or more, 37% Caucasian or white. The 2-race ethnicity and the Asian ethnicity is bigger than in previous years, so that is kind of the only thing that's changing in our demographics. And these are the things I'm going to talk about. We've been working on these. Victor and I took over, this is our 3rd year. I was a teacher here for 5 years before that in special ed. And these are kind of what we've been working on. This year, we're kind of seeing a big change in school culture. If you come and visit anytime, we still got to work on getting the student performance up, but I do think it's a really nice place for kids to attend school right now. This is building a positive school culture. We've done a lot of this over the last 3 years. This year we did 6th grade orientation, which was right before the 6th graders got their schedules and stuff. They showed up here. We did a parent meeting with the parents and the students, did some activities and got familiar with the campus. We do community restorative circles. We had challenge day for 7th and 8th graders. Also, we have a leadership program. And this is, and I've been to a few schools, not a lot of schools in my time, it's like one other middle school. And like here, and just talking to people I know that are principals of other schools, we do an extremely great job of things at lunch and just activities throughout the week to keep students engaged in school. Like they may not like coming to school for X, Y, and Z reason, but they may really like their leadership activity at lunch. The homerooms compete against each other, and the winning homeroom that wins the Super Bowl at the end of the year based on like 46 weeks of doing things gets to go to the boardwalk. There's like, you know, they get special buses and stuff. It's super fun. So it is nice. So if you come during lunch on a Friday, I would recommend it. Super fun. Also, we review the expectations every single day on the announcements. They're clear. We have a chill room where if someone's not feeling so hot that day or they're having a bad day, they can go sit in the chill room for 10 or 15 minutes, talk to our wonderful counselors. They do restorative conversations. We have a recycling program, Cub compliments. So if someone does something nice, the teachers can give them a Cub compliments, catch them doing something positive. And then every day there's a Cub compliment read, and that student comes to the office and gets an award. And we have the honor roll, several clubs, and we do assemblies throughout the school year. 2 academics. In ELA, English Language Arts, and math, we went up 9 points. That's as a school. Some of the subgroups didn't move that much, but overall that metric is moving in the right direction. And our English learner progress, we have a TOSA, a teacher on special assignment, that does ELD. We also have some outstanding ELD teachers, and that has moved us into the blue, which we've never ever been in before. So, you know, it was orange and yellow. Now, you know, having that teacher on special assignment has really made a huge difference. 71.6% of our English learners are making progress, and that is huge. I just encapsulated this in one slide, and then I put an appendix on there that has all the subgroups, if you want to look at that. But here I just want to highlight, is there a thing on here? Yeah, I just did something wrong, sorry. I don't know what I did. Anyway, so meet or exceed standards. That green line right there is the green line right there is basically comparing. Yeah, okay. Thank you. So the green line right there is just comparing. That's last year, and then anything in yellow went up. Okay, but really, like, this is the kind of the narrative right here. Is 6th grade, ELA went up, 7th grade, ELA went up, 8th grade kind of stayed the same. Similarly with Rosie, could you please help me? Sorry. Oh my God. Okay. Okay, well, the 6th grade, I can do this without the slides. The 6th grade math went up. And so the 7th and 8th grade stayed kind of the same, but didn't improve as expected. And we have a new math program, which is 6th graders at the end of 6th grade can test in to 8th grade math, provided they do 7th grade math over the summer. So that's happening right now. So there's some mixed 7th and 8th grade classes, and hopefully, like, that gives, like, the actual 7th grade students sitting in a 7th grade class, that's not the slide. So those 7th graders they're remaining in class that didn't go to 8th grade math, now they're getting all the attention, right? Because the high flyers are out. And what is interesting to me this year is those 7th graders in 8th grade math are outperforming the 8th graders. So I have high hopes for 7th grade math test scores and 6th grade math test scores, because they know if they are superstars, they get to go into 8th grade math the following year. So I'm very excited about that, and I'm hoping that's going to, and it'll also boost numbers in Algebra 1 for 8th grade. And that's really something, you know, there has to be something for students to work towards if they're really high flyers. Also, and what we do to improve student performance, a lot of tutoring, LPAC tutoring, math tutoring, making teachers aware of academic data. So we distribute the data to the teachers, and we talk about it. providing interventions. There's grade level teams. The sixth grade teams met today. Counselors talking about high school, talking about college, talking about choices for what's going to happen for eighth graders next year. These are our core courses. We have a Spanish immersion program, so if you're in the Spanish immersion program, that's part of your core courses. It also counts as your elective, but it's an actual, core class. It's not like fun and games. It's Spanish because it is the immersion program. And our electives, media arts, leadership, current events, STEAM, these change on a yearly basis depending on teachers, the master schedule, and who's open to teach what and what they can teach. These are our music electives. That's from the Christmas concert, parade, basic. We have beginning instruments. That's like, no, you've never had band, symphonic ensemble. Those students have been doing it for a year or two, sometimes 3. And we have 2 guitar classes. Then we have a drama class. They put on plays. There's a 0-period stagecraft elective this year. And media arts does anything from like just painting or using clay or whatever, sculpting, to like things with media. I think they were doing Photoshop. They started that a couple weeks ago. STEAM elective, 6, 7, and 8. This is Mr. Murray, who was up here with the cross-country team. He runs this show, and it is excellent. They do a lot of like robotics things. They build roller coasters. They program, I forget the name of the thing, but they can program these little robots that they build. They can even make stuff out of cardboard that has this little machine in there that programs and does stuff. Kids love it. There's some CNC machines in there. They do some woodworking too. Kids seem to like that. Ag science, planting, composting, recycling. We have chickens. They built birdhouses the first semester the 8th graders did. We had Rosie Mickelson, who was here. We got a horse that came in, so that was great. And so these are the 3 things that I think we did good and the 1 thing we need to work on. So we reclassified. If you look at the numbers up there, before Victor and I came, they were at 10%. There was no TOSA helping out. Then it went to 23%. And then the next year, we had a lot of students that we reclassified. And this past year, it was 31% of students got reclassified. But the ELD team is Miss Al, Miss PS, Miss Ron, and Miss Agaki. They do a wonderful job working with students to help their English skills and pass the LPAC. And it was 71.6 of our English learners are making progress, which is outstanding. Then just communication. I think we do a great job of sending out videos every week. And we also do outreach for the ELAC meetings. We had a parent, Brenda Haro, out handing out leaflets to people in cars to kind of get everybody. So it is like a great parent-school opportunity. It's a lot of community, and it's very nice. This is another of the 2 things, chronic absenteeism, the suspension rate. Our suspension rate went down. It's going to go way down next year. Chronic absenteeism, we were in ATSI for chronic absenteeism the last couple of years. Now we're not. So that has declined, and I think that'll decline some more next year. So those are the 3 things that I think have been highlights of this past year. And what we need to work on, what I want to work on, is math. So, ELA is important too, but the math department right now has like enthusiasm that you don't get a lot. It only comes, you got to ride that. So I am very optimistic about this new program with the 7th graders and 8th grade, and just like pushing that and see how far these kids can go. So that's what we're working on this year. It's a work in progress, and hopefully it will pay dividends. And the teachers are very excited about it. That's all I have. Are there any questions?
Yeah, thank you for that. I got a couple questions. So that's a fascinating program. So the 6th graders can take 7th grade math over the summer.
Yeah.
And then what do they do then 7th and 8th grade? Then they take Algebra 1, or how does that work?
Yeah, then they can take Algebra 1.
Gotcha.
And the benefit is that they don't have to take Algebra 1 in high school.
Right.
So they can immediately go to Geometry,
Got it.
Algebra 2, Advanced Algebra Trig, and then hopefully Calc.
I see.
Yeah.
It strikes me as really ingenious because it's essentially you're not making the decision about what students should do that. They have to be self-motivated to say, I want to spend my summer doing this.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
and that's the math teachers. That's not me.
Yeah, well, I understand, your team. Yeah.
It's Miss Wolk, the
Yeah.
6th grade math teacher, who gets everyone pumped up.
Gotcha.
And that's why the 6th grade numbers are big,
Right,
because she then motivates them
right.
for the next level. And it is, and then Miss Manning does the combined 7th, 8th grade class. So I think it's going to be a good thing.
Yeah. Another question, well, I don't want to, anybody else, other question? Other comment. So to me, and I think you would probably agree with this because you put it in your presentation,
Yeah.
but that the absenteeism numbers, that seems significant. That's an indication that the culture of the school is changing because people want to be here. And
Yeah. I also think COVID had a big,
Yeah.
and we're still dealing with the effects of that, because I do feel like a lot of students that aren't coming to school, like you get in that habit,
Right.
and it's just a hard habit to break. And I think this year, why I think this year's numbers are going to go down, it's because like everything stayed the same. There hasn't been a lot of changes in our staff in the last 3 years. So the students that are 8th graders right now, like they don't know a different principal than me or an assistant principal than Victor, or or even our whole office staff is the same. The counselors are the same.
Right.
So it's like they have had this stability, and you can really see it in the students this year. It's
Yeah.
really nice.
Speaks volumes about it.
Yeah.
My last question is, tell me more about the tutoring. So who's doing the tutoring?
So
How do you organize that?
So for math, it's the math teachers,
Okay.
because they're
So the
motivated
math
to do
teachers on
that.
their own outside of class or just,
No, they'll do it during lunch. Like we can use Title I funds for tutoring.
Got it.
And so it's hard to get somebody to tutor for the hourly wage.
right?
So after school tutoring, actually, Miss Bravo does that. And then we have some parapros that do that on Thursdays. So we only have Wednesday and Thursday after school tutoring. So it is kind of challenging. Like, what's the price point where
Yeah.
a teacher will stay for an hour after school?
Right.
And a few years ago, before COVID, there was a teacher that did 4 days of tutoring. And I think that kind of burned somebody out too.
Yeah.
So he's not doing it anymore. But we're thinking of ideas, trying to figure out how to make that happen. The lunch tutoring is great. After school, an after school tutoring program is something that we would really, that's something we have to have if we want to drive test scores.
Do you have volunteers who tutor? Is that a possibility?
That's a possibility, yeah.
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 Okay. Within the structure of the school? Okay, thanks.
Thanks for the presentation. I really like that you're using the data and making sure everyone sees the data. I think it's really important to be data-driven. Another thing that I just really liked was the robotics stuff. And I know that Jill at the Boys and Girls Club, they have the robotics team now, so that might really be able to feed into that at the Boys and Girls Club.
Those might be some of the same kids that are.
Yeah, hopefully, and hopefully they know about it. So
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. So thanks for all your work, and it sounds great. Thanks.
All right.
I just have 2 questions, but first, having a 6th grader, so new to Cunha, it's been above and beyond our expectations for middle school, and the culture is incredible, so thank you guys. My first question, I know I should know this, but for the testing results, when we're looking at the year over year for grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, is it grade 8 scores looking at the previous grade 8 scores or their 7th grade scores?
No, so that's like the 8th graders. So for instance, when they take the test this year, when those scores come out, those eighth graders are 9th graders
Okay.
when the scores come out.
But the
But the 8th grade, those 8th graders were in an 8th grade class. That's not the 7th grade class.
okay, so it's 8th grade, they're 2 different sets of students being compared.
No, it's the same. It's still, it's different sets of students, but they're both the
Both
sets
8th
are
grade.
both in 8th grade.
Yeah, but, okay.
Yeah.
And then Because you brought up the immersion Spanish class, you might not know this answer, but do you happen to know how many fifth grade English language learner, like how at Hatch it's like 50-50 when you have to go in, how many of those original students that are on this native Spanish speaking side are taking Spanish when they go to middle school, continuing that?
If they're still in an ELD class, right? And they're in Spanish immersion, that would count as their ELD class. So almost all of them do.
But they're not in the Spanish language class.
Yeah, if they're taking Spanish in the immersion program
Yeah.
and they're ELD, they stay in Spanish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
they can opt out of it if they want,
But most stay in it.
most stay in it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for everything you do, Ms. Bravo, Victor, and especially you. Thank you. I really want to say thank you for everything. And I want to also acknowledge all your hard work in the ELAC committee. I'm like, was that the right one? ELAC. I've seen you firsthand, and I have to say, it's been an honor to see you just be there, talk to the parents, and just let them know, that you're there to support them, to help them, and to get them involved. And to see you become involved, I think it trickles down to the families, which I want to say is a result of our reclassification going up and parent involvement. So thank you so much for everything. Thank you.
And if I can chime in, I just want to say, again, thank you to Mr. Clinton and Mr. Guzman for their leadership and their staff. I've been on the campus multiple times now. Today was a great visit, visiting classrooms. Definitely a connection between staff members and students. So culture first, right? A sense of belonging, and the accolades will follow soon. So thank you again for your report.
Thank you, Dr. Miramente.
Now we're going to move on to the student board member report.
What? Oh, no. Do I have slides? Or? Oh, okay, great. Okay, so winter sports are underway with basketball, wrestling, and the soccer teams all having great seasons so far. Our lovely real-life learning program will be hosting a winter service jam on Thursday, January 30th, where students will be able to learn about volunteer opportunities from about 20 local nonprofits, which will help them fulfill their 35-hour service graduation requirement. And then we'll also be hosting a challenge day next month on February 5th to foster community and confidence among the student body. And then finally, students were introduced to the Say Something anonymous reporting system this past week, which allows for quick anonymous reporting of concerning behavior via phone, text, or an app. And through video shown advisory, students were taught how to recognize behavior that should be reported in both in person and on social media. And also, I'd like to shout out the Cooner cross country team. As someone who's run cross country all 4 years, it's great to see that there's people coming in who are enthusiastic about it. Especially the past few years, I think a lot of sports have seen kind of a decline in people that have been interested. So it's really encouraging to see that there's enthusiastic middle schoolers who are hopefully bring up the numbers. Thank you.
Right, and you're a stickler for the microphone.
Thank you. I'm going to turn over the presentation for our fiscal stabilization plan to Mrs. Marsh.
If you just give us a second, there it is.
Okay.
Because I have to move the switch, I'm going to advance the slides.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Okay. So, good evening, everybody. Tonight, we're going to just present an informational presentation about our fiscal stabilization plan. And so we're going to discuss how we got here.
review some of our previous actions, our district's fiscal status and condition, and an overview of the 25-26 fiscal stabilization plan, and some of our next steps. So you've seen this slide before of how we got here, and I just wanted to highlight a few of the items. How we got here, we have a board-adopted first interim with positive certification that the district will meet its financial obligations for the current fiscal year and 2 following years. We have also done a one-time transfer of $3.5 million from Fund 40 to General Fund this current year for fiscal stabilization. And we are working on, we have a draft of the fiscal stabilization developed. It's identifying potential savings for 25-26 fiscal year. There's several other things on here too, but I'm just kind of moving on. This is the MYP, the multi-year outlook that was presented for first interim. This slide, what's the right way to say it, Rosie? We updated this slide from the board presentation. It had the wrong slide in there, but it is the same slide that was presented at first interim. It has been corrected and will be uploaded to the website. So this is our MYP, and you can see that there's a $1.1 to $1.2 million deficit spending in the next 2 years. I just want to also point out this MYP does not reflect the parcel tax revenue or the 2% salary increase that has gone into effect effective January 1st. Both of those things will be reflected at second interim. And it also does not reflect any fiscal stabilization reductions that we're presenting tonight. And it's probably good for this one. Little history of, you can see our fiscal challenges here. We've had a rough couple of years in 22-23 and 23-24. We flipped between our certifications, negative, qualified, positive. But currently, we have a positive adopted budget and a positive first interim report. Hopefully, we can bring you a positive second interim too. Little description of what all of that means there, but just wanted to provide some background of some of our challenges. And then the next slide. So we still face some other challenges. We have an ongoing structural deficit projected in the general fund. We still have employee salary and benefit needs, and the need to increase our general fund reserves, long-term fiscal protection for the district, and our out-year instructional and programmatic needs. And the next slide. So here's our timeline that you've seen before. We're currently the fiscal stabilization plan overview to the board in January. At that point, where I'm between first interim and second interim, so I'll begin working on second interim, which is the period between July 1st and January 31st. We begin working on that in a couple weeks here. And we're continuing to work on fiscal stabilization plan draft, which you will see more of. Next slide, please, Rosie. So in light of the district's fiscal challenges and needs, although it's not required by the San Mateo County Office of Ed, staff recommends developing a 25-26 fiscal stabilization plan with 4 parts. Tonight, I have some slides that focus on 2 of these 4, but the 4 parts are targeted program staffing reductions, right-sizing district programs and staff, some potential uses of utilizing Fund 40, and some student instructional investments. Our fiscal stabilization plan components of targeted 25-26 reductions. Our interim superintendent, Jeff Harding, met with site and department leaders prior to winter break, and a list was compiled from these recommendations of those meetings. These items were then placed into these buckets or categories and are broken down in the following percentages here. So we have salaries and benefits, additional compensation, program adjustments, services, and supplies. And as we review this list, we have to really emphasize the word draft. This is the very first draft of these items. So, they're all up for discussion. Anything can change, but it is definitely a working draft. And we have a lot more work to be done in February. And so we were able to identify over $2 million of savings or reductions as far away from the classroom as possible with little impact to the students and programs. Some examples, I want to point out that we're not giving specifics of salaries and benefits and the positions that are part of that breakdown. They're sensitive, they're still a discussion, it's still a draft. But just some examples of what these are made up of. Reducing things such as overtime, stipends, consultants, legal fees, and salary and benefits is made up of district administration, some classified and some certificated. But again, as far away from the classroom as possible. And the next slide. So as part of our fiscal stabilization, we also are looking at maximizing the opportunities of the balance of Fund 40. We were interested in putting Fund 40 to long-term use now, and it can address many of the district's current fiscal challenges and needs, such as increasing the district general fund reserves from 3% to 10%. Our board policy does state that we should maintain a 16% reserve for economic uncertainty, but we're looking at possibly a 10% at this time, which would be a $3.5 million piece of Fund 40. Another item could be matching funds from Cunha and Half Moon Bay High School field turf replacement. We have some facility projects there that Dr. Miramontes will talk more about later on, but they are the Cunha soccer field, Half Moon Bay High School baseball field, and possibly some other facility projects that we would still be utilizing Fund 44. And also establishing an instructional technology stabilization account and set aside for possible employee salary benefit increases. Next slide. These are our next steps for the plan adoption. There's a lot here. We're going to be busy the next few months. Part of that is second interim report for board approval in March. We will continue to analyze and finalize reduction list for future board adoption. We also are going to begin working on the 25-26 budget and LCAP and continue to monitor the governor's budget for updates, along with all this other stuff. Reviewing the district assets as one of them. And the next slide, please. And that's it. Any questions?
I got a question. So we had a board resolution to keep Fund 40 to use those monies for the things that we use bond money for capital improvements. So is there any thought about paying back that money that we've used? And it looks like talking about taking more money out of that, but we had a resolution to use it for those uses, so I'm curious about that.
So we're not asking for any action tonight. It's really just a discussion of possible uses with still the intention of paying back the $3.5 million or a different use of possibly putting that into maybe a deferred maintenance account so that it is not just in this slush fund of Fund 40. If we decide to pay it back for facility use, it can go to a deferred maintenance account. It could go, Fund 17 is for reserves. So there are earmarked accounts that maybe it would be safer in.
Okay, thank you.
Just a comment on that. I definitely agree that we want to use those funds for capital improvement where it's appropriate, but it's also an opportunity to bring stability to the district. And I think if we're using the funds for those reasons, then I'm definitely open to using Fund 40 in a different way. I think definitely what we want to avoid is a situation where we're returning back to Fund 40 continually to cover specific costs. We wouldn't want to get in a situation like that. But if we're moving funds to different accounts to create a reserve, in essence, we're not spending those funds. We're just moving them to kind of stabilize what we're doing, and I'm open to that for sure.
And I just want to be sure that we're staying true to the voters who voted for that money. And I know we can use Fund 40 for other things, but I do feel like, people voted for it thinking it would be used for capital improvements. So the intent is there. So I just want to make sure that we're thinking about that as well.
I have a question regarding the reserve and increasing it to 10%. The current 3%, if I'm not mistaken, would cover about a month of not even a month,
So it's about a month of salary, but not operating costs.
and that's the minimum.
16%. I'm sorry, go
The
ahead.
3% is minimal, right? Required.
Yes.
Okay.
16% would cover about 2 months of all operating costs and salaries.
That's 16, but
16%
okay, and we're just talking about an aspirational 10%
at this point.
at this point. Okay.
Any other questions?
I do, and maybe you already mentioned this, but when we were trying to explore Fund 44, other, I can't how you worded, but is there certain departments? I know like the technology department and maintenance, things like that. I mean, technology is really expensive, and we just, I think we need to. We're going to have to invest more money on our technology because it's like we have little Band-Aids, and we just we need to make sure we invest in that, because that's really important. I mean, we just had
Right.
the phone system down the other day, so yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Miramontes and I have been having a lot of conversations lately about investing in technology and the potential uses of these funds for technology. So definitely we're open to those conversations.
So I just, Jeff did Dr. Harding did a great job in the 2 months that I was surprised how much he did in 2 months, right? So my job is to really set us up for the next 3 years, not the 6 months that I'm here, but the following 3 years that are coming through. And that means right-sizing the district, looking at all our budgets that we have, and what might we be utilize these things in the best appropriate way. I've asked questions about technology fund. I've asked questions about if one of our buses breaks down, how are we going to replace the bus? Do we have money for that? If somebody breaks a window, yeah, we could use bond dollars, but is that how our community wants us to use bond dollars? They want those for capital improvement projects. I've been asked about our facilities, right? We've got great partners that want to partner with us for our soccer fields and our baseball fields and the swimming program out there. We're going to maximize everything we can to squeeze out as much as we can from those partnerships. But it's also my due diligence, along with Jennifer, to make sure that we are set up for the next 3 years. And yes, Fund 40 can't be one of those things we run back to over and over and over. But we also have to have that reserve in case of an emergency, and then earmark certain dollars for technology, certain dollars for what's happening now is every new dollar that comes in, special programs, all we're doing right now is filling in holes that we can't afford to do. Right? This is the perfect opportunity to right-size the district, because we had a lot of money that came in during COVID, right? And that COVID money is gone. We looked at a budget the other day, and I'm looking through every budget, every grant, every budget, and we have a fund that we have, I think it was $700,000 worth of personnel in it. And if we were to continue with the same personnel in those positions, we're $221,000 in the hole, just in that. And these are needed positions. So again, I've talked to our staff about what is our base program going to look like, right? And then what are the above and beyonds? And so we'll be working through that. I'm working with appreciate our administrative team at the school sites. They really have a handle. Jeff, Andy, our high school principal, our middle school principals have provided that. I'm working with the middle school, with the elementary principals this coming week to have a better understanding, keep the board informed, keep the community informed. I want to be as transparent and as open as possible. These are tough decisions, but they have to be made if we're going to be competitive, right? We want to retain the best teachers. We don't want our math teachers heading up and over the hills, what I'm hearing, right? We don't want that, right? We want our administrators to stay here, but at the same time, we have to be fiscally responsible, and that includes setting money aside for an emergency. So I ask for your patience. I'm not asking the board to make a decision tonight, but when we come back in February, right, we really need to set the tone for the next 3 months, because it's the LCAP development and the budget development for next year. And we don't have next year to wait. I mean, we are at the point now where we need to make and move forward. Any other questions?
More of a comment. Okay, this is my first official meeting, so I am trying to figure out how this all works. And now that you brought up that we should be voting on this in February, I guess this is the time that we can kind of discuss, since we can't do that outside of a public forum. I just want to say on Fund 40, so I was on the oversight committee for the bond and parcel tax, and I was livid to like that the return, the settlement was put to how it just didn't seem very forthright to the community when the settlement happened. We kind of found out after the fact. And then money was used, which I understand it's under the umbrella of capital improvements, capital creation as workforce housing, but that wasn't under the bond language that was M&S. So now that we have a new bond passed, a very large bond, I am fine moving some Fund 40 funds, not spending them, but moving them to increase this reserve. I think it was Fund 17, where we can, in case of an emergency. And if we go through, is it K? I don't remember what the new bond is. K? Okay. If we go through Measure K and we're like, oh, we still need $3.5 million, then fine. You knew, during that time, we don't have an emergency, it's still there. Great. But I think to help in case of an emergency over the next few years, we have $168 million to spend through before the $3.5 million to get us at a 10%.
I can tell you, Andy's already spent $180 million at his high school, right? We've talked about the high school being.
Oh, I was like, what?
Yeah, we've talked about the high school being the pinnacle
yes.
of that, because that
Yeah.
all roads lead to Oz, right?
Totally.
And that we have the opportunity now
Yeah.
to make sure that that place is Oz, right? And so it's set up. So I don't want to skim and chimp to make sure that we can do these other things, right? That money is going to go fast. I think in the feasibility study for a swimming pool, what we had discovered, it was about $6 million, right? And so that we're going to tap our partners and say, how might you help us if we put a little waiting community pool there, right? And so these are the conversations that we have to have. But I appreciate, the conversation here, because again, I want to be transparent, open, seek input, right? And I will have private conversations with each of you so that you're well aware. We can ask those questions at the next board meeting and really set us up for the upcoming years.
Sorry, just regarding then, if a resolution was made and this feels like it's going against that resolution, how does that work?
Well, we're currently doing that right now. Our board policy states that we have a 16% reserve.
Okay.
We're not doing it, right?
Okay.
So we could, and that's why I think Dr. Harding said, put it all in that reserve. Be done with the Bank of Cabrillo is what I've heard, right? Be done with the Bank of Cabrillo. Put it in reserve because that's your board policy.
But then it's also going against our resolution we made.
Right. But my point being is this board can make a resolution that changes it. This board can make a resolution that changes board policy. It says, we don't want to do 16%, we want to do 10%. This board can make a resolution that says, we're going to put money into, we're going to use Fund 40 for X, Y, and Z, right? And then any new money coming in, we might want to put into these other buckets, transportation, technology, deferred maintenance. And I shouldn't use the word deferred maintenance, but kid breaks a window, we should have money to fix that window, not put a board up and wait till next year to find the money to put that window up. An air conditioner breaks, because our infrastructure, an air conditioner breaks in some of the portables, kids need that air conditioner right then and there, right? We've got 3 generators, I think is in our part of our CBA contract. I understand from the coast that sometimes our buildings go down, we don't have a generator. We're hauling a generator from one side of town to the other to make sure one school's lit up. Maybe we use that money for those generators, But you have got to decide what's going to be the best thing and equitable across the district, right? So,
No, that's it. I mean, I'm happy to, if we decide to change directions, that's fine too. But I think we need to be true to what we've done already. So
Yeah.
I think we all agree.
Yeah, and something you said made me think about this, that if the goal is to vote next month, that this is really, and this is something I'm learning too as a board member, is this is how this would work, is that if you have something to say, now would be the time to say it, and not the night you're going to vote on it. So in connection to that, I really like the idea of using Fund 40 to help out with the artificial turf field, because my understanding is that those complementary funds are ready to go. And so this is the perfect opportunity. We don't have to wait for the bond money to come in. We have funds from Fund 40. It's a capital improvement. So that would be a great use of those funds. And then again, to reiterate, that using those funds as a reserve and then using, when necessary to use them for capital improvement projects, that just makes a lot of sense to me. And so that's the direction I think we should move and vote on next week.
I do want to give Mrs. Marsh and her team a lot of credit. She stepped into this role. When we have conversations, it amazes me of her calmness and her thoughtfulness. This is, I don't know, 4th, 5th generation. So and so she's committed, right? She's committed. She understands the community. And so I just want to give her a compliment that she really wants what's best, like we all do, right? There's nobody holding that money more tighter than she is. So I'm pushing her, right? And so how about this? How about that? And so she's done a fabulous job, and you've got a great person here that really understands finances and where we need to go.
Thank you.
All right, next we have item 3B, the proposal for Half Moon Bay High School Facilities Master Plan. Dr. Miramontes?
Thank you. We have our partners here from QKA, and they have been partners of ours with El Granada and Fairlawn View, and so they're going to present tonight. We've got an ask for the board as well.
Yes.
And so I'm going to turn it over to Mark.
Yes, it is.
Mark, the table is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. Before I start, I have to say I love the analogy of our high schools being Oz. I think that's a marvelous imagery. So
I just saw
I'm not sure
Wizard.
who
I
that
just
makes
saw
the-
Wizard. That's
I'm
why.
going to say I don't know who the wizard is in that scenario, but I love the notion of that. So I'm Mark Petrocchi of Petrocchi Clark Architects. This is my partner, Erin Jobson. Unfortunately, not with us today is the person you know the best, is Lyanne Schuster. She's also one of my partners. Lyanne decided to spend her winter break getting pneumonia, and she's under doctor's orders. She can't come out to night meetings. So you have us, but Lyanne will, as you saw in our proposal, will, as our work was for El Granada and Fairlawn View, is also an active player. So what we're here to do today is describe to you, kind of in broad brush, the facility master planning process. You'll see it's very similar to our work we've done for you before. We also provided a proposal, so we're also here to answer questions about that. Next, please. So briefly, just about Petrocchi Clark Architects. We're a firm of just over 70 people. We're nearly 40 years old. We specialize in educational projects. That's really all we do. And it's interesting, our work for your district sort of reflects all the kinds of work we do, from facility master plans to new construction to modernization work. We've completed about $2.5 billion worth of public school work, all in the Bay Area. Next, please. So as I mentioned, we're going to describe to you the kind of broad brush pictures for master planning, and then I'll just do a little more description about our work with you, and then I'm going to turn this over to Erin to talk to you about that process. The thing I want to say is that in my years of doing master planning, I find that the process for master planning really is so much about the uniqueness of every district. So what we're going to present to you today is sort of our years of experience, but what we've learned is that it's really about tailoring that process to you, your district, your community, and how we best can make sure that we gather the information and have a really engaging process. So take to heart what Aaron's going to be presenting, because he's going to do the heavy lifting today. Will really be a methodology that reflects a lot of things we've done, but as we sit down and work with you as a board and facility members or school district members, we know we're going to tailor that and craft that for what's best for you. Next, please. So just the last thing, we've been working with you for over 7 years now, And I just thought it'd be interesting to sort of, it gives us a great opportunity to reflect. We've walked every campus. We've worked on many of them. I cannot tell you how delighted Lyanne and I are, particularly because we've done so much planning for you, to get to work on your high school. As you know better than us, it has such need. But we were honored to work with Hatch, and in fact, Aaron and Lyanne did the majority of the work here, both the new classroom buildings and then also the preschool project. Next, please. We also had the chance to do master planning for Fairlawn View and El Granada. That was a great example of sort of our methodology for those of you who've been through that process with us. And a lot of what we're going to talk about is similar. But it led to these sorts of diagrams that reflected your educational program, the community interests, and of course the facility needs, which were many, as you well know, at those schools as they are in the high school. Next, please. And those then led to these construction projects. And it was great to drive by today because I haven't been there since they started tilting up walls, but I'm sure you all saw, you can now see the walls tilted up. So this reflects the phase one work, the new classroom building, and that sea of portables, very glad to see them gone. And the master plan process that of which so many of the staff and community members, facilities people led that effort into what this building is to reflect your educational program, your community. Next. And not nearly as interesting of a drawings, but the next phase, which would be starting as early as this summer, is the repurposing and complete renovation of the balance of the buildings at El Granada. It will truly be a transformed campus by the time we're done. And it's a great reflection of what the outcome of a good master plan process is. Next, please. And so with this, I'm going to turn this over to Aaron and let him describe the master planning process.
Thanks, Mark. You're welcome. Thanks again for having us here. I'm excited to be here too. My brother actually lives in Half Moon Bay and has 2 kids in your schools. I think one of them is friends with your son, maybe Henry, as my nephew's. Then we learned that when we all had dinner together before this meeting. So it's great to have a personal connection to the district as well. So I wanted to start by just talking about what does master planning mean. I hear that it's the first meeting for a few of you, so this might be a little bit new. And really our goal in that process is to, as Mark said, engage in a collaborative participatory process to really understand what are the facilities needs at the school in question, how do we develop a vision for that long-term future, and then how do we prioritize which projects are going to have the biggest bang for the buck, the biggest impact of every dollar we spend, getting towards that vision. So our job is really to provide you the information to make decisions about which projects are going to maximize that educational impact of the bond dollars that you have. And to help make sure that you understand that that has been developed with the participation of as many people as possible in that process. So we like to use this diagram to talk about master planning as the first piece of the process of developing a project. So we want to start by identifying really the general scope of the projects. What's the size of a new building? How much modernization are we doing in an existing building? Are we converting one type of space to another type of space? Are we doing outdoor improvements? Big picture of what the budget is for those improvements. So we have a dollar amount tied to that, and then try to help prioritize that. We've never worked on a school where there's enough money to do everything that everyone wants to do. That's not how public schools work. And so part of that process is understanding that and challenging people a little bit on that. Our job isn't just to write down every idea everyone has. We want to listen to those ideas, but also engage in a dialogue around how can we take this thing and do it with one building instead of 2 buildings? How can we be efficient and effective about that? How can we utilize the resources and facilities you already have? And then through that, come up with a prioritization for those projects. Once a project is taken from that list and said, okay, we're moving forward with this project, the next step is what we call programming, which is really getting much more into the weeds, into those requirements. How much cabinetry do we need in this library? How many people do we need to be able to sit for a meeting? Those kind of things to really get into more details about exactly how many square feet we need, what kind of infrastructure it needs. Confirm the budget and schedule again. Make sure we understand the relationships between projects, and then move into design. And that's where we're going to design get to the point where we're building like we are out at El Granada. And at each one of those levels, we get into more detail, and we have stakeholder engagement all the way through. We always include this slide in our meetings too, because we don't have to answer the questions about the more detailed things in this first meeting. We'll be back to talk about those things. And so making sure everyone understands that process too. Next. So with input from all of you, which we've gotten some of already, and we'll continue to inform that, we'll create and finalize kind of a structure for this process to make sure that we engage all of the stakeholders, all the partners in this process in an effective and efficient way, in a way that kind of respects their time, but also makes sure that we get that input. And so this is kind of an example of what we typically do, and we've kind of started to finalize here. So we'd have a school site committee. Really recommend having one committee kind of chaired by the principal that represents all those kind of green bubbles on the left of the different groups in the community. We ask that community to kind of speak on behalf of those groups, but also go back and share information and gather input from those groups too, to be kind of representatives of those. And to us, it's important whenever we can to have all those folks together and have those conversations so we can hear each other's perspectives too. And then that site committee provides input to a district group, which is usually kind of your cabinet, essentially, along with us and our team too. That's especially important when we're doing many schools at one time, so there's a lot of different information to take in. And then we'll have additional input from district teams like your special ed, your maintenance, your nutritional services, your PE, those kind of departments within the district and what their needs are and the overall educational programs. And then another important component, in addition to the site committee, one of our key things that we typically do is kind of broader, more general community engagement too, where we're sharing out about what's going on, we're getting targeted feedback on certain aspects of that, whether that's through a survey or through a community forum, town hall type of event, or whatever other way you're already engaging with your community that's effective and efficient for you. And then all that comes together in a recommendation that comes to you all as the board who are the decision-making. So we bring that recommendation to you with input from all of these groups so that you can make decisions. Next. So one of the things we keep in mind all the way through this process is equity. And many times we're doing master planning in a context of, we're working right now with Redwood City School District. So we have 18 school sites that we're looking at, and they all have very different needs and they serve different communities. In this case, we're focused on one school, but I think the idea of equity really applies here too, especially kind of between programs and between departments and between different aspects of the school, in that they're all going to be at different states relative to where we want them to be. So we start kind of identifying, this is what we'd like to have each of these programs be and be able to offer from a facility standpoint. And our job is really to identify, like, what level are we at now and what do we need to do to get everyone to that benchmark. And some people are going to be close, some departments, some buildings are going to be closer to that than others. We're not going to divide the funds equally, right? It's not going to be like every square foot gets the same amount of investment. They have different needs. They're different distances from that goal. And so we want to kind of approach it in that way. Next. So overall, our approach is always to be a really collaborative partner, to work with you to figure out the right process and implement that process. We have a dedicated and proven team with Mark and Lyanne and I all have more than 20 years of experience of doing this kind of work. Lyanne and I both have gone through a continuing education accreditation program to do master planning through an international organization of school facility planners. And so we have a lot of experience in your community and in similar communities doing this work. A big part of this is clear, consistent communication. One of the things we'll talk about up front is how and when do you want to communicate about this to your community? You know, when are we sending the Parent Square updates? When are we doing posting things on the website? How do we make sure we're doing that bilingually so that we're being inclusive as much as possible in that process too? And then just be honest and transparent with all of you, with the leadership team, and make sure that we're responding and being flexible as things change as we go through this, because we know it's not going to play out exactly how we think it is. That's never how that works either. Next. So kind of overall, we'll be looking at kind of starting, the community engagement is a huge piece of this, and understanding what the right way to do that is. And as Mark said, we tailor this approach to each district's different, each school is unique. So understanding what's going to work best for you. Honestly, for us in the last few master plans, one of the biggest challenges is figuring out how to get the level of engagement that we want to get people to show up to those meetings and participate in the process, and to format that in a way. And it's sometimes it works great. I had a meeting at a school in Oakland, and we had 150 parents at the first meeting, because their parent engagement team did a phenomenal job getting people there and making sure that it was ready. And they had pizza for everyone, and they had childcare, and they had done the communication and the outreach. And then we've had other community forum meetings where we're going over, 5-6 schools across the district, and we have 3 people show up. And so I think that's where we want to partner with you and make sure we're working together to get that engagement and make sure we're using people's time effectively, but getting the input we need. So we have a lot of different tools to do that, and we'll work together to find the best balance for that and then adjust to that if it's not working. I think in Redwood City, we've had some challenges with that too, so we went to doing hybrid meetings. We're doing some meetings on Zoom because that worked better for people and people were able to participate in that more. And we stretched the time out a little bit more to give some more time for those meetings to happen to make sure we got the level of engagement we needed. Next. So kind of the overall process will be first, we're going to kind of finalize this community engagement plan, confirm the budget and schedule for, and kind of how this process is going to happen for the master plan. We'll be completing the investigations and reports. So that's kind of our initial step, is really analyzing your existing facilities. So getting a really good understanding from our team and our engineering team, what the condition of the facilities are, what is the basic infrastructure needs, what needs to be improved, what needs to be renovated, what needs to be replaced. So that we have a real clear understanding of that going into the process. Then we'll be working with the community partners, but also with your educators to verify what those facilities needs are. And then based on that input, we'll develop some initial options. We'll validate and finalize those with further input from community teams, and then communicate those results out, not only to you, but also to the community to get their input and make sure they see that the process is moving forward, that the bond that they pass is being put to good use, and that we're getting input in that process along the way. Next. That's kind of a maybe not so quick overview of the overall process. So we'd be happy to answer any other questions that you have about the proposal.
I want to add one other small part. You saw one of the green bubbles. What's a nice thing about doing high schools where we're unable to do this in Fairlawn View or El Granada, it's harder for younger kids to engage. High school students have no trouble telling you exactly what they think. So Aaron and I have, over the years in LAN, developed methodologies for including students. Sometimes they're part of the committee, though we've noticed students are sometimes shy about participating in a committee. So doing some work separately with the help of the principal, finding students to be involved in that process. So I think we should remember that as part of that engagement plan, we'd like to include students. So please, any thoughts or questions? That's our hope today is hear your thoughts about this.
I have a couple. So I'm an El Granada parent, and I was at the very first meeting when Leanne when we first started, and I was on the school site committee. I've just been very involved with the El Granada one, and I'm very excited for where we are. I will say that the beginning part, and COVID kind of broke this up, so there's that additional thing. It seemed to take a very long time to get from the input to the final design. And part of that to me felt like we were asked Disneyland thoughts, and then there's kind of this, okay, what about this? And then we were told, oh, never mind, we don't have enough money. So then we went back, and then it was like, here's this, oh, nope, we don't have enough money. So I would hope that, I'm hoping this time around, we know how much we can agree on some amount of money. We're going to go through a plan of what we want to do with our bond dollars, where to spend it. And then kind of start there, targeted, okay, we know this is our budget, instead of going back and forth, because we want that high school done as soon as possible. And we know there's a limited budget, but we want it done and done well. And I felt like there was sometimes a little bit of letdown then, because we saw this really cool thing, and it's then we were told, oh, you don't have enough money. I was like, oh, I really like that though, It's so that's my only my hope is to.
And I really appreciate that candor. A little backstory to that, and I'm sorry, before I say that, you're right. I mean, the master planning process, like design, we want to gather information. We try to temper realities. When somebody says, well, we want a 1,600-seat theater, we ask why and how are you using that, and there are other ways to do that. So as Aaron said, we just don't write things down. But you're right, there was that process of kind of higher expectations. There was a lot of jostling behind the scenes about how the money got divided between the two elementary schools, and suddenly the high school got involved. And it was no one person's fault. Understandably, the sands were sort of shifting under our feet, and suddenly what we thought we were doing was not at all what we were doing. So, but I really appreciate, as a parent, that's a difficult thing to watch happen when you just want your schools fixed. I can appreciate that.
And you bring up a very good point. It's between us and you, to make sure that we're all on the same page from the get-go of what we can do. Because once that got started, it's been wonderful. Like,
Glad you think
like,
so.
It's been
But I
so good.
appreciate and don't disagree that that was a longer startup than it needed to be. I don't believe it'll be like this time. But fair, and I appreciate the candor.
So I am going to apologize in advance because I am new at this, and I think this is going to probably happen a number of times before I get comfortable as a member. But I want to make sure that I understand the process. So these are kind of questions more for Ramon, but about the process. So this is a proposal. We're at a proposal stage. When is the piece that's in the consent agenda related to this? It is. Okay. So I don't feel like I fully understood that. And I'm not totally comfortable moving on that yet because I feel like I don't know enough to make a decision about whether or not we should spend the money on this. And so I know it's a part of the consent agenda. I don't know the process by that. But is there a way to not vote on that tonight and for me to learn more about what this process is?
This board's going to either have to make a motion, and whether the motion moves forward, or make a motion to postpone it. But we talk about three things: quality, in project management, quality, schedule, and costs, right? And so we are in line, and there's another piece here that we're in line for state matching funds at the state, so when we start doing this stuff. I've heard that we want this done soon, right? The longer we wait, it just extends it. We can go out and we can do an RFQ and ask everybody out there, but we take the lowest bids. I've seen that happen before in my district where we took the lowest bid. Not always the best people that know it, right? It's almost like a family, right? And I think when this was put on here, prior to me being here, right, we have a firm that has partnered with us and has done a very good job of managing, working through, that we trust. But this is your meeting, right? You guys need to decide whether we want to wait another month.
But we could request other proposals without a bid.
Which would require us next month to do a proposal.
Yeah.
And then there's a certain timeline of how long that has to be posted on the on public newspapers and whatever else we have to do, right? So everybody has a chance to see it.
Yeah.
So you would not probably start. The board would not vote on this probably April, maybe May.
Well, I appeal to my other board members. I feel like I need more time on this because one of the things I was critical of the past board was that it felt like people didn't have a handle on these types of decisions, and I don't want to make that same mistake. So I would ask that we at least delay it a month so I can get a handle on what this process is, and then if it makes sense to move forward next month, that's great. And if it makes sense to open up the process, then we can have that conversation. So thoughts on that?
I feel like this is for you two. Can we get historical background on, since QKA has been working with us for several years, how that decision was made to begin with?
I can answer that.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay.
Mark, you want to go and answer?
We were hired through, so in architectural services, like all professional services, there are qualifications-based selection process. It's not, cost is one of the factors, but it's qualifications. The district went through an RFQ process looking for architects, and I'm so sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the architects that did Fairlawn.
Studio W.
Yeah, Studio W. They were one of the firms, so you pick a couple firms, so that you went through an RFQ process to select architects. I don't recall the number, but a large number of architects responded. There was paper screening and interviews, and that's how we were selected.
So we did go through an RFQ process? Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe that's for you. Please. Be better for you than for me.
So yes, there was a complete RFQ process, and QKA is actually known from Southern California, Northern California, Access Superintendent Academy. They're the best and most well-priced group that follow through. So, and like Dr. Miramontes was saying, we're missing millions of dollars. We missed probably $6 million opportunity because we didn't have some of this work already done. And so the longer we delay, the longer we will miss grant opportunities, the longer we will miss serving our students. But yes, basically the same
On
thing.
top of that, another thing I'm worried about just getting going is so many bonds passed in the state of California just with this last election, that there's going to be a lot of construction going on and a lot of, a lot of demand for the architects and for the construction companies. And also, the longer we wait, the more prices are going to go up, especially with all the demand coming from the construction companies. I don't know if you have any more comments about that, but that also, I really feel like we need to get ahead of this, or we're going to be paying more money in the long run.
There's also one little minor thing, and I want the board to take the time they feel is appropriate. We serve at your leisure. We don't want to lose the school year. Is the one thing about master planning, unlike other design services, we rely on the school year because we're so interactive with your staff, particularly teachers, but parents even engaging. So if we can, to make sure that we have the 3 to 4 months that we would need for that, we want to make sure it's happening while you're in session.
Otherwise, you have to wait until next September to bring people in.
There's things
and
we
that
can do over the
pushes things
summer.
back.
Aaron talked about the facility assessment, but that's a fairly minor part compared to the engagement portion. Summer, summer tends to be a harder time to gather. Anyway.
So as a courtesy to Kurt and the fact that, he's new to the board, what would be the consequences of us just postponing it for our next board meeting, so he feels comfortable with is that going to be a major delay? Not that we're going through the RFQ
No, I mean,
process again.
it's all incremental. It's 1 month, right? So it does, I think to Mark's point, we want to be a little bit careful about once we get to May, it's really hard to get engagement, but that still, gives us a couple months before that. So we'll just have to really hit the ground running and make sure we kind of have that engagement process really dialed in with the staff there so that we can still get that done and we're not pushing things off until the fall.
Okay.
So one thought I have is that it's not just a $180,000 decision. It's a decision based on where we're going to spend essentially $150 million on. And so to me, it's worth an extra month. I need to be able to look my constituents in the eye and let them know that I know what's going on and be able to explain it. And right now, I do not know anything. So I'm not comfortable. I would ask for at least a month, and then we can come back. And very well maybe in the next few weeks I get comfortable with it. It makes sense, and then the vote makes sense. But even more importantly, if I feel like in the month I find things that I'm not comfortable with, that would be even more of a reason to make sure we're taking our time with this. I understand the importance of being expeditious. I don't want to waste money. I don't want to waste time, but I also want to make sure we do this right.
And what would that include? You working with Dr. Miramontes, or I just want to make sure.
Yeah, just understanding the process better, understanding who are the other vendors that are, a possibility, what requesting of the proposals look like, what are the pros and cons of that. That's because right now I feel like I'm just sort of introduced to this idea and the way that this process works, and so I want to know more before I make this vote.
And I'm okay with going ahead with it, just because I know we've worked with you for a long time and we've had good outcomes with you, and we did do that RFP process before, so I'm okay to vote tonight. So I guess it's in your court, you two, if what you'd like to decide to do. Because I will make a motion to approve the contract, but I don't know if anyone would like to second or.
So I feel more comfortable moving forward now that I know that there were RFQs sent out. I worked with them, so that the community that I spoke with was very concerned about there's only being one person, only one group presented, but knowing that we had originally gone through the process makes me feel more comfortable. What does the $180,000 get us? Are you designing what?
So what that what that gets is the facilities master plan document. So the proposal kind of goes through a pretty detailed summary of what the deliverables are. But we're doing that, what it mostly gets is time, right? It's time and expertise from our professionals. We're essentially pricing this is how much time it's going to take us to do this work, including all of our engineers. So we'll have electrical, mechanical, structural, civil engineers come out and look at your facilities, make sure we have a clear understanding of what those needs are. So if we need to upgrade the electrical service, we know that now. We don't find that out in 2 years and then have to change plans, right? So we're doing that kind of work up front, and that's a good chunk of it. There's a separate line item kind of for facilities assessment, and that'll all be put together and documented. There'll be kind of summary pages that tell you kind of just a big picture where each facility is, but it also really informs when we get into pricing out specific projects. And then it's the time to go through all of the meetings and community engagement and work with your staff and community to understand what those needs are. And then all that gets documented. And so what you end up with in the end is an overall plan of here's the vision of this school. A list, pages of projects that show this is the scope of work for that project. Here's kind of a quick drawing of what that might look like in a plan view, but also a list of kind of this many square feet, this many classrooms, et cetera, and a cost for that. And then oftentimes we'll also put information in there about prioritization. This is how this project is prioritized relative to other projects. So then when it comes time to decide what to spend the bond money on, you all have the information to do that. So it's kind of all of that together into a single document that not only is for all you, but also to share with the community. And so that it's clear when you make those decisions that they're informed decisions. Does that help answer the question?
Totally. And so that then doesn't include the plans.
It does not. So this is that top level of the first diagram that I was talking through, right? So it gets you to the information to decide these are the projects we want to go forward. And then you'll select a design team for each one of those projects, which is its own separate process. And however you have a pool of pre-qualified architects, and you can figure out who you want to hire and what you want that process to be later. And then that team that you select for that will design that project, get it approved by the state, and then there'll be another process where you select a contractor to build that. And that's what you've been through in El Granada and all of the other projects is each stage of that. And it is a long process, right? From the time we actually start designing a project, it's, a year and a half to get to starting construction. And then it's going to take another year and a half. The construction duration is going to depend on the size of the project. But there are a lot of pieces in that, a lot of pieces we don't get to control either, like the state review and things like that. So this is the first step in that process, and you're just biting off the first chunk, right? There are many decision points as we go through this process.
So clarifying question.
Yeah.
The first step, but you would then theoretically play a role in all the other steps.
That is completely at your
Well,
your
I understand
decision.
that, but
yes,
it would be
love
unlikely we would switch horses. I mean, that's not something that's typically done.
I would say it often happens like it did with El Granada and Farallon View, where one firm will do the master plan, and then you'll say, okay, great, we'd like you to work on this school, and we'd like you other firm to work on this school.
Okay.
And that happens, that is very common. We're familiar with that. Studio W, all the other firms that we work in parallel are very familiar with that. And so oftentimes what we see is you'll pick one firm from your pool to do the master plan, and then it'll get to the terms of the projects, and you'll pick one firm to do this project and another firm to do that project. And that's really, you make that decision every time for every project based on what's in the best interest of the community at that point in time.
So I suggest we make a motion to, and then vote on if we want to.
We have a motion.
Second
We
to.
need a second
to
or.
move on.
Right now, it's in the consent agenda, right? We'd have to
No.
pull it out. It's not?
It's in general business.
Okay.
I will second. Can I make it? Okay. Oh, okay. I will say what makes me a lot more comfortable now is that this is just the facilities master plan, and this is a group that has been working with our community, so knows our community, where we can still go look for a different architect if, there's still that potential, because like you said, Studio W is doing Farallon View, so I'm comfortable with this amount for this role with this group.
I appreciate that, and it does make me feel better. I'm gonna, if we're voting now, I'm gonna vote no, because I'm not comfortable spending $180,000 and not having an understanding of what the process is. So,
I also know that they're very well respected around the state, so that actually, that also makes me feel good too.
Okay, so we are going to be doing roll call for this item. Okay, Carmen is absent. Lisette?
Aye, or yes, or whatever.
Aye is fine. Peter?
No.
Brianna?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
It passes 3 plus 1.
And just for the record, I have worked with Studio W. That's who did our district in Buena Park. So, and they speak very highly of you as well.
That's very kind.
So, yeah.
If
Michael
there-
Henning.
Anything we can do to help answer any questions that any individual board members have, we are delighted to come down to talk. Anything we can do to help with this. But thank you. We're very honored at this opportunity. We really are.
Thank you both.
Thank
to
you
see you.
very much.
If I could just comment, one of the things I'd like to do with the board is to do a school board visit of our facilities, so that they actually know what our facilities looks like. We jump on a bus on a Saturday, we visit every single school site, or during the week, I say Saturday, only because I know many have other duties, but the Saturday we can drive up and visit each one of our schools, so that you actually walk through, see some of the things that are happening, and do it again next year, so that we really understand where we are. We started doing that in Buena Park, and it made a world of difference when you start to say, that crack was there last year, why didn't we fix it, right? So, we need to start looking at that sort of stuff. And so, and then Pete, you and I should meet along with Jennifer to explain the process. Raji, I'll welcome you in on the conversation so we can help you understand that, and I appreciate you answering those hard questions. I mean, this is, you have questions and we should be able to answer these, but thank you.
Just a point of clarification. So then what are we voting on in the consent agenda that's listed as, because I think I'm confused. Let's see. The approval of the school facility consultants agreement, that's something different. That's not connected to this.
That's the state matching bonds consult,
Oh,
$20,000.
that's that one. And that one I understand. Okay, we're good.
So moving on, we're going to move on to item 3C, bond program update, construction progress, lease and portable classrooms, and also the parking lot lighting. That's like a tongue twister for El Granada School.
Thank you. I've got Roger and Charte Chahar
Thank you.
and Jennifer will
Dr.
tag team.
Miramanis.
Thank you.
Good evening. Members of the board, district representatives, and members of the greater Half Moon Bay community. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Roger and Charte Chahar with Vander Construction Management, and I'm here to provide a bond construction progress update for bond projects related to measures M and S. First slide we'll look at, I know it's a little small, but is the program schedule. And the column to the left shows our list of projects. And the green line represents where we are today. That's the vertical line. And projects we have currently underway are Farallon View Elementary School in Montera. We are upwards of 65% complete with that project. We'll move down. And then as far as El Granada Elementary School, we're 30% complete, and also working on programming phase 2 of El Granada, which will be buildings A, D, K, and M will be renovated. Next slide, please. There's a view of the breakdown for Farallon View Elementary School's project, the total project budget, the schedule. For building A, you can see we met our first milestone last August, where they completed building A and moved in. Time for the fall period. And then as far as building B and the MU, that work is currently underway and due to complete before school starts. We're anticipating moving in July 28th. Currently making excellent progress with Farallon view, things are on schedule as well as on budget. And we look to actually do better with the schedule and actually exceed it, but things are moving along really well. Next slide, please. Here's some photos. This is a photo of actually building B underway, and to the left is actually building A completed, just a view of what's one side, one half of the campus, which is under construction, and then the other side, which is totally complete and operational. Next slide, please. There's a view of the shade structure that's in the back of building B, currently underway. This is an area where students will be able to eat lunch, and it ties into the MU building. And there's the view of the steel structure in the process of being painted. Next slide, please. Here's a view of the wood framing inside of Farallon View underway. They've gotten through, they poured all their foundation work and currently framing the inside of building B. You can see a view of the skylights that are being reframed. The classrooms had skylights, and now they're also going to have skylights in them as well. Next slide, please. Here's the MU stage. There's some seismic modifications that we had to do in the MU, but here's a view of the stage being redone inside of the MU. Steps are being poured in that slide. Next slide, please. And then now moving on to El Granada. El Granada's project, last summer we did some temporary housing and moved people out of old structures so that we can start construction on the new building. And then also the playground and play structure was completed in early September. And now we're currently underway with the building C construction, and we'll move through the photos and I could share, we could see progress there. Also part of El Granada's work will be phase 2, which is the modernization of buildings A, D, K, and M. That's part of the project is currently into DSA, so we're waiting for approval from that. We are 85% complete with the Division of State Architect Approvals, who is the people that approve our drawings. And then moving on to the next slide. There's a view of the El Granada campus. The building in the center there, the larger structure, is building C. That's currently underway, and you can see we can see a lot of progress with that project if anybody drives by the site. And then there's also it's the view of the rest of the project. You can see the parking lots to the left. We'll be doing some work there this summer once the children are out of school, and we'll be doing a lot of work there. And then also showing some of the portables that went in last summer to the right. Those brown structures were portables that went in, and they will remain because that extra space was needed on campus. Next slide, please. Here's right before the foundation was poured. This was in early December with the vapor barrier going down for the slab on grade before the concrete was poured. Just a lot of work. The crews actually worked through a lot of rain in late November, early December. They were able to meet their schedule, and this was right before the pour, where actually rebar and the vapor barrier was down on the slab on grade. Next slide, please. Here's a view of the pour. This is January 7th was the day that they poured concrete, and this is all the crews working, and they were able to pour this concrete in one day, and that's just a view of the work in progress that day. Next slide, please. Here's a view of this on January 8th. The slab was poured. The crews were just starting to remove forms. Actually, they took some tests to see how soon They took some compression tests on the concrete to see how soon they could start putting walls up. Found out that the test results came back positively so that we could put walls up within 2 days. So they started putting walls up 2 days after this. So this is just a view of the slab on grade board at El Granada. Next slide, please. There's just some utility work they had to do over the winter break. They had to tie in some utilities on campus. They are getting this work done while school is not in, so that we're not interrupting with any of the academic mission. So that's the work underway in the student courtyard area while students aren't around. And that should be all our photos. Any questions?
We have inside this item, there are two items to vote on. One is the list of the portables, and the other one is the parking lot lighting. So we're going to need motions for both? Separately, motions.
Can we talk about the lighting? Where are we with the lighting?
The current lighting was removed from the project. I believe it was maybe the October. The parking lot lighting was removed from the project through a board meeting. It was either October. It was October. Thank you. Last year, and so at that point in time, the parking lot lights were removed. We're now. The plan is to reintroduce them into the project because community and the district feels like it's the right thing to do. Mostly.
What does that mean, reintroduce?
Well, so right now, the board formally removed it from the now, to reintroduce them, basically we want to have parking lights be a part of that front parking lot. To what extent there is a current design that shows 5 parking lot poles that are 25 foot tall. I don't believe we have, actually I know we don't have full agreement with the community on that configuration. But I believe the goal tonight is to approve the lights and then figure out what that configuration that's acceptable for the campus will be.
Break that down for me. Approve the lights, and then a separate time we'll talk about design.
Yes.
Okay. So then, what are we approving?
So my understanding is there was a master plan that everybody approved, right? And lighting was part of the project.
Correct.
Then there was a separate vote in October that said,
"Yep,
no lighting."
remember that? Was at that meeting?
Pull it out, right? Dr. Harding met with principal, staff, community members, gave input about the fact that we need lighting there for safety reasons at the end of the day when kids get picked up, open house, whatever, right? So, and the master plan included it. But because the board took action to pull it out, they cannot move forward, right?
Correct.
The district feels that we have an obligation to keep our students safe, right? And in order to keep our students safe, light has to be a part of the problem, a part of the solution. Now, I have had conversations about approving this tonight so that I can charge Roger to go out and work with some of these coastal lighting experts that know the coasts and look at a couple of renderings that we can actually share with the board that says, this one, or this one would be the best thing. It's not going to be a lighting that you see at the football stadium glaring out at the community, right? We know that'll never pass. The other thing is this: we might have rendering A, B, and C. My understanding, because it is part of the Coastal Commission also has to weigh in. Coastal Commission may say not going to happen, right? A, B, or C.
So this vote would just be to empower you to go and get designs.
Correct.
Well, we have a design, and the next step could be to evaluate that design with a second professional. But the current design that was redone after our initial CDP, there was a design that was redone in September of '24. That design reflects 5 25-foot poles. And there's not total agreement from the community on that, but the district and even the community members agree that they want to see lights there. What that looks like is the challenge, because there's not agreement there. But the current design does meet the black sky requirements, all the community requirements that are needed by engineer design, light shields, the 2200 lumen lighting, that all meets the local ordinance, maybe not, but requirements, not even that, but it's what the Coastal Commission and the MCC is promoting to be acceptable. We've done that, it's in the design, but there's the challenge is there's not full agreement.
So then what we can expect is other design options that we could look at.
By bringing another we could bring another professional who does this. He comes in as another person to evaluate a design that's in place, and he and his team will look at it and say, like, and this is what he does it throughout the coast, and he will tell us this design is either needs some work or it looks good and just needs a few adjustments here to meet what he believes is acceptable. Great.
I have a question. I don't even know I don't even know how to ask this question, but I guess my concern is the input from the neighbors and the community. I know you could get another professional and another opinion, but at what point are we also making sure that we're taking that into consideration? Because it is important. I understand it's safety of our children and being safe and feeling safe in the schools and in the parking lot is important, but it also is respectful and important to honor the community, the neighbors, and the people who live in that area.
So I would I am also, I guess we're just approving to open up the discussion, but in what you're saying then, I would okay, if we're getting another lighting person, it's going to be hard to pass the 5 25-foot lights. Okay. So I would like a meeting with our community at El Granada MU that everyone can sit down and discuss, because I believe there's going to different community. El Granada is the school that my children go to, that I've been part of. And so knowing the principal and then the community members, I do believe that there is an agreed upon lighting situation. We just haven't seen it on paper yet. So I would really like to have a meeting at El Granada School. Everyone says what their thoughts are and then create a design from there.
So we can, with board's approval, I will work with Roger. Yep. I'll keep the board informed. We will seek input from the community, and let me express this. You're never going to get 100% of the people in the community, but I think it's a valid point of bringing people in and hearing them again, and hearing from the administration and the staff at the site, because they actually live it, and then actually sit there and sort of watch what that looks like at the end of the day when people pick up their kids, because it is dark. I've been there. It's dark, right? And so, and then looking at what would be the best thing to be good neighbors. Totally hear that, right? And so there's a lot of work to be done on our end. I think Roger had, with Dr. Hardy, they wanted a second opinion of a coastal expert. I get that, right? But what I'm hearing the board is, that's great, but we also want to see other options. So I hear that, and so I think that'll be the task that we have with Roger. But again, I go back to the student safety first, and I think everybody would agree with that, and also being good neighbors, right? So how do we balance that out? And so I'll work with Roger and Jennifer and our team and make sure that the board is updated, but we need approval for this to be able to move forward.
All right, so we have two motions. First motion would be to approve the lease of the portables in classrooms for El Granada. Do I have a second?
Second.
And
You did the motion?
I did the motion.
Okay.
And then the second motion is, do I have a motion to approve the parking lot lights as proposed? No. Do we have to amend that?
Let's do the portables first.
Yeah.
So we have a first and a second.
Smart.
So we have the first and second, now we have questions on that.
On the portables? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Discussion.
So how long is tell me the portable again, what's the brief?
The need for the portables is to provide temporary housing
Oh,
for
okay.
classrooms once we start construction for phase 2.
Okay, and then how long is the lease on those?
It is a 1-year lease.
A 1-year lease?
Yes.
And, okay, and then they go back after a
Then they
year?
go back, yes.
That's why we're not buying them, we don't need them
Not
for that
buying
long?
them, we looked at buying them, it was not cost effective.
Okay,
Roger, did these include restrooms?
They do, yes,
My
they
understanding
do.
is it was for TK and
That's
SCT classes.
very good point.
I want to make sure
Yeah.
it's very clear.
Yeah.
You know, great.
and then, wait, were you gonna move one from Hatch?
No,
Over there?
everything that needs to be moved has been moved.
Okay,
All the ones that we were trying to find a home for and use for temporary housing have all been
okay,
landed.
okay.
Thank you.
Are we ready to vote for number 1? Okay. So this is for the lease of the portable classrooms. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. Passes 4+1.
The next one, which I think we're gonna have to amend. Rosie, do we make a motion to amend? Because
So I can
it-
just say it how I want. Okay, I move to reopen the lighting plans for El Granada parking lot.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Questions, discussion? No? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Don't we first vote and then do the public comment? No? Okay, so let me read the public comment. This is a public comment from a neighbor on Santiago, Kimberly Hines, and it reads as follows. If you can see hillsides from the coastal trail in front of the parking lot, they will be impacted by the night lighting. Neighbors throughout El Granada that have written to MCC and the district support the dark skies and lights off when school is not in use. While bollards are required for egress, the parking lot lights are not, per DSA. Bollards running the perimeter of the parking lot will have a reflect scattering effect on the sidewalk and will aid the parking lot. Having a safe campus that operates efficiently is desired by all. Please be diligent with the next interaction of parking lot lighting, balancing school needs with coastal corridor and El Granada neighbors interested before it gets submitted to county again. Each failed attempt cost the district 5-inch poles was over-designed. Winter dismissal at Dolphin Club is at 6 p.m. Parents are parking on the street and the nearest entrance to campus, using space very closely to entrance. Bollards will also enhance this area. A light off the end of the K building or as the S curve could light enough space for Dolphin Club dismissal, as well as custodians when they leave campus. For custodians, a light can be on a sensor that activates only until their scheduled departure. Last year, there were only 8 events that dismissed after civil twilight. It might be that lighting from the K building or the S curve pole would be sufficient for these events as well, when combined with the bollards. Please be measured with assessments of liability. How many claims have been filed in the district for a mishap in a parking lot? It could happen. Liability is far greater during daylight hours when school is in session, when cars are double parked, and when will be worse with losses of 17 spaces. That is.
Are we ready for a vote? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Those opposed, please say no. Passes 4+1.
Okay, thank you, Rosie. Now, next, we move on to item 3D, approval of the resolution of 02-2025, authorization of CUSD to participate in the CESB Interactive Project. Dr. Miramontes?
Yeah, I know that CESB program is one-for-one. Yes, I know that the CESB program is a one-for-one. You turn in one bus and you get an electric bus. One-for-one exchange. I'm going to ask Ms. Marsh to come up and give us a little bit brief history of what our fleet years are and what the needs are for our transportation department. Ms. Marsh?
Okay, so we're asking for approval, authorizing us to participate in the Zero Emission School Bus and Infrastructure Incentive Project. The participation is required to submit the application for this grant. And we currently have, I actually don't know the number of buses we have, but it's probably about 5 to 7. Our fleet is about 40 years old. So they're pretty much just running on like fumes, and this grant is a one-to-one, but this would qualify us for 2 buses. We would be turning in 2 buses and receiving 2 buses plus 2 charging stations. And we're just asking for authorization to participate at this point.
Can you explain the process? We submit the paperwork. Are we in line with everybody else to get that exchange, or how fast does that happen?
I'm not sure. I am not sure. Okay. I need to find out more about this grant. This is merely the beginning stages of it, so just getting us in line for it.
Don't we need to make a motion in a second before we discuss? I think we've been doing that wrong. I'll make a motion to approve.
I second.
Thank you.
So this decision tonight wouldn't tie us down to this. It would just open up the process, because some of the concerns I have, I'm obviously very supportive of this and want to get us some new buses if it makes sense, but I'm concerned about long-term costs and who's responsible for the upkeep of the charging stations, and what's the cost of fixing an electric bus if it breaks down. So we have that knowledge, we go into this and make a decision with our eyes wide open so we know kind of what we're getting into. But if tonight is just to start the process, I'm totally on board.
It is just to start the process, just to participate in applying for the grant.
And just so you know, like in the past, those buses are costing us a lot of money because they're breaking down a lot. It's like $500,000 a year or something.
Exactly.
Thank you. Are we ready to vote? All right. So this is a resolution, so it requires a roll call vote. Carmen is absent. Lisette?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Brianna?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
It passes 4+1.
Okay, moving on. Next item is 3E, approval of interim superintendent contract. Dr. Miramontes?
It is what it is. It's the contract for the next 6 months. It's the contract to work with you for the next. I said it is what it is. It's the contract to work with the Cabrillo Unified School District for the next 6 months.
Do I have a motion?
Yeah, so moved.
You're seconding it?
I'll second.
Okay.
Sure.
Any questions, discussion?
Okay. Oh, thanks. Just on, this is for Jennifer. For the fiscal analysis, I know it says the financial impact is included in the budget, but if this is going against the general fund, could we give a number there? Or this, we can't?
An aggregate number, you mean?
Yes. For the memo, because we're approving an amount. Are we not approving an amount? No? That's for a year. They can't hear you. Yeah.
Sorry, Brianna. So that was based on the previous superintendent contract salary line that was on the management unrepresented salary schedule. And so it's prorated the year 7. Dr. Miramontes is tremendously seasoned. We're very lucky to have him. And that would be an annual salary, which would include benefits and contributions to STRS or PERS and other benefits and vacation time and all that. Dr. Miramontes' interim contract does not include any of those additional benefits, and it's a proration of that step 7 of $171,000. So I think it's $1,260 per day. Sorry, $1,207 per day. Thank you.
My understanding is the same contract that Dr. Harding had.
Yes.
That's exactly right. Thank you.
Yes.
Rolled it over
That's exactly right.
for a longer amount of time.
Absolutely.
So I hired him. Awesome guy. Worth every penny. I just for the public, I would just under fiscal analysis. This has been a little thing of mine pre-Jennifer, is just having an amount there instead of saying it's in the budget, which is very difficult to read. Just having an amount when these memos come out that do affect our budget, just so everyone knows like what that amount is instead of trying to find it.
Definitely can do that.
That's just, yeah. Thank you.
As Dr. Miramontes directs, the staff will make that happen.
And you're directing it, so yeah, we can do that. Thank you. It breeds confidence and transparency, so I would agree.
Rosie, did you vote already? Or?
Are we ready to vote? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. Passes 4+1.
If I could just interject, I was asked to give a little bit, no one knows who I am, right? I mean, trying to get out there to introduce myself, but just that I've been a teacher and I'm a teacher at heart, bottom line, right? And so it's like that coach, it's a coach's, player's coach, I'm a teacher's coach, right? And so I've been a principal, 2 successful schools. One that was Title I, 90% underperforming to a distinguished school. Did it with our staff, classified certificate, we did it together. Moved on to be another principal at a K affluent school, National Blue Ribbon School, and the first International Baccalaureate Bilingual program in the County of Orange. So I have a track record of success because it's about building a culture of success, right? Been a district administrator, left that great school, Beechwood School, Kate School, 1,000 kids, went on to become, and that was Disney. I went out to the LA County Office of Ed as the director of HR, 5,000 employees. That was not scary farm, right? And so I thought to myself, what am I doing here? Loved every opportunity. It broadened my scope of understanding for the role that I sit in now. Loved that piece. Went on to become an assistant super in Buena Park. Eventually the superintendent in Buena Park. Was there for 10 years. Loved it. I was tasked to come on and lead the county as the deputy superintendent, working with the superintendents in the instructional services side of ed services and educational programs. Loved it there. Was looking at the county job here in Santa Clara, right? And somebody says, there's this little great, if you're really looking to come up north, there's this little district that needs some sort of leadership now, right? And so I'm falling in love with Half Moon Bay. And when I say Half Moon Bay, I mean the entire community, our coast side community, right? You have incredible people here, a very dedicated board, committed administrators of getting to know the teachers and getting to know the kids. I mean, that's what it's all about, right? The kids that were sitting here today, the kids that were on the middle school playground today during nutrition time, not recess, nutrition time, right? And so I'm humbled for the opportunity to be here, and I want to thank you guys. And I do speak Spanish. I'm a son of immigrant parents from Mexico, and I speak Spanish. And I had my first opportunity to meet with our DLAC parents the other night. I was in 2 places there, and also the Budget Advisory Committee. And I'm looking forward to really setting us up for success for the years to come. So thank you. Thank you for the vote of confidence.
Thank you, and welcome, and thank you for coming to this little town you've heard of. So we appreciate it. And next, we're going to move on to 3F, approval of the resolution. Did I just read that? No. Did I? 3F? No. Approval of the resolution 01-2025, authorizing signatories effective January 2025, January 23rd of 2025.
Thank you so much. I'm going to learn that. No, that's great. That's great. So yeah, this is just making sure that I'm included in the signatures that are needed to be able to do things and operate the district.
So, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
No questions?
Nope.
Okay. This is a resolution, so we need to do a roll call. Carmen is absent. Lisette?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Brianna?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
Passes 4+1.
And next, we will be moving on to communication section. There are no public comments? No? So now we're moving on to item 4, public communications on non-agenda or consent items. The board is committed to maintaining a respectful, do I read this whole thing? So we'll move on. And then next one is 4B. This is the employee organization report. So Cabrillo Unified School, so the CUTA representative organization report. Do we have anybody? Oh.
All right. Mr. Carey couldn't be here tonight, so I'm taking his place. So thank you. I'm Christina Yakeley, Vice President of CUTA. This is his speech, so bear with me. Good evening. It's been an interesting couple of weeks for teachers getting back into the swing of things and being back in front of our students after winter break. We welcome our new board members, our new board president, and our new interim superintendent. And we look forward to working with all of you to face the ongoing challenges of representing this district. The biggest thing we are hoping for in 2025 is input. CUTA has a number of teachers who have opinions, a lot of us. We have seen things that could be improved. We see things that should not be cut. We see things that need to be torn down and rebuilt. We are asking for the opportunity to give input in a number of these areas in our district. Our community just passed a bond measure that will help fund some badly needed repairs and upgrades in our schools. Let teachers have input in decisions made on how to spend that money. We are the ones in the outdated classrooms, the ones who walk past and into dilapidated buildings, and the ones who duck to avoid the waterfalls coming from the broken gutter systems. I've actually had that happen to me. We know what needs to be fixed. We know what needs to be replaced. Ask us. CUTA is willing to work with you on the teacher recruitment and retention issue, an issue that is not only plaguing the district, but the state and the nation as well. There are ways to make teaching a more attractive profession. We have friends in other districts and other states that have made strides in this area. Ask us. There is a lot of uncertainty in education here in 2025. The governor's budget is uncertain. The choices that our new Secretary of Education will make are uncertain. And the new administration in Washington might have something to say about the future of public education as well. With all this uncertainty, tap into the expertise of those people who are on the front lines of education, your teachers. Ask us. Again, to reiterate, we are asking for the ability to provide input on these decisions that directly affect us on the front lines. We have opinions, we have ideas, but most importantly, we have insider information on how best to proceed on a number of issues. We ask you to ask us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have someone from the California School Employee Association, CSEA, tonight. Maybe not. Okay. All right. Next, we're moving on to item 5 of the agenda, the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved?
Second?
I'll second.
So we have no public comments, correct, Rosie?
We usually don't take comments on consent agenda.
Oh.
Because those are routine items that we don't expect discussion.
Okay,
But, so we move directly to vote.
thank you.
Thank you. So we require roll call for consent agenda. Carmen is absent. Lisette?
Aye.
Pete?
Aye.
Brianna?
Aye.
Mary Beth?
Aye.
Jamie?
Aye.
It passes 4+1. Thank you.
Next, we move on to the governing board reports. So we'll start, if anybody would like to start, board members.
I just want to acknowledge today also as the anniversary of one of the worst days in Half Moon Bay. And so I want to make sure that people know tomorrow, ALAS and the National Farm Worker Ministry will be hosting a remembrance for the beloved 7 farm workers and honor their lives in the 2nd year anniversary. That will be held tomorrow at the Alas Casita at 636 Purísima from 6 to 8 p.m. tomorrow night. So this is my first official board meeting. I went to a San Mateo County School Board Association new member like half day meeting, like Pete and I went, Mary Beth was at the beginning to welcome us, and got to meet like the other San Mateo County school board members, which was pretty awesome. I went to the Budget Advisory Committee meeting on Tuesday night. Background, I've been part of it since 2019, and now I will just be on it as a board member. And I am very excited for where this group is going. There's a very core group, and I am so appreciative of Jennifer leading the charge with Brett, and Dr. Miramontes was in attendance as well. And yeah, it's my first meeting and I'm excited to be here. And a lot of people have asked, like, how's it going? Which I'm very thankful, like, that people are concerned about me and like how this is going. But how it's going for me is going to be defined by how it's going for all of you. So let me know, like, how, any changes or what you see, once you meet Dr. Miramontes or the committees, or how I'm talking up here. That's how it's going to go for me, is making sure that this district continues moving forward in an upward momentum with great community behind it. So thanks.
I'll go. I just wanted to say that I'm excited for the new year, and I'm excited for our new board, and I'm excited to have Dr. Miramontes here. I know it's for the employees, it's been a little bit of turmoil with new leadership coming in and out, but I thank you all of the staff for keeping your noses down and keep working, because we're all trying to do what's best for kids, and for you to keep going through that is really admirable. So thank you for that, and I'm excited for the future.
This is my first meeting tonight as well. And so I guess what I want to do with my time here is thank everybody who has been my teacher up to this point. So this process for me started this past summer when my wife and I decided that I would run. And it was a baptism by fire, just talking to as many people as I could talk to learn as much as I could learn. And then I get to this stage and I learn that I don't know anything. And I don't know how anything works. And so now I'm excited to work with new teachers, district employees, fellow board members, superintendent, to teach me all the things I need to know to be an effective board member. And I'm excited about that process. It should be fun. Just one thing I do want to say in the very beginning, that as I campaigned on, one of my main priorities is to find ways to make our teachers pay more competitive. That's a big priority for me. So, I care about the union, of course, and I want them to, we want to make sure we treat them with respect, but I'm also thinking beyond that we need to find ways to significantly increase teacher pay so that we can better compete with surrounding districts and be a real draw for teachers who want to be here. So hopefully we can find ways. I think, we've talked about this, but I think the parcel tax is going to be one of those solutions, and we'll talk about that. And I'm hopeful that the community is supportive of a solution through a parcel tax. So we have things to do now in terms of getting the high school off the ground and other things, but at some point I want to turn my attention to that. So, thank you.
Como siempre voy a empezar mis anuncios en español. Primero quiero darles una bienvenida esta noche a todos los que están aquí, los que están viendo desde su casa. Un feliz año nuevo a todos, y más que nada le quiero dar la bienvenida a nuestros nuevos miembros, a nuestro nuevo superintendente, y gracias por decidir estar aquí con nosotros, y a los nuevos miembros. Siempre es bueno tener nuevas personas con diferentes perspectivas y opiniones. Eso siempre es muy importante. También quiero decir todo lo que ya habían dicho. Quiero reconocer que hoy es el aniversario de la tragedia que pasó aquí en Half Moon Bay hace 2 años, y realmente recordar que somos una comunidad que cuando hay tiempos difíciles, quisiera decir que nos unimos y nos podemos apoyar. Y mis condolencias a todas las familias que, aunque ya pasaron 2 años, eso yo creo que es muy difícil para superar. Cuando pierdes a una persona que es de tu familia y que quieres. Siguientemente yo como que me estoy otra vez aclamando a mi vida, porque me fui hasta vergüenza me da, bueno, no me debe dar vergüenza. Me fui a México 3 semanas a visitar a mi familia, que no había visto en unos cuantos años, y regresé lista para conocer a nuestro nuevo superintendente, que me da orgullo que es mexicano y habla español, y con eso quiero decirles que pueden venir con él, pueden hablar con él, platicar, decir si tienen algunas preocupaciones. También le quiero dar las gracias al superintendente por haber hecho el anuncio público de apoyar a las familias sin importar su estatus legal, especialmente con el nuevo presidente que tenemos, y muchas personas están preocupadas, pero saber que hay un apoyo por parte del distrito y que nuestro superintendente lo ha hecho saber es muy importante. So, gracias por eso. So I always start in Spanish, and I just want to welcome everybody for being here, and Happy New Year. I want to welcome our new board members, and it's always nice to have new perspectives and ideas, and so welcome, and welcome our superintendent for choosing to be here with us. It's an honor to have someone from my Mexican background heritage along with me, and just remind people that he is bilingual, so that is an opportunity for possibly future engagement with the Latino community. And I did also echo the acknowledgement of the tragedy of what happened 2 years ago. And, my heart and condolences and prayers go out to the families. Even though it's been 2 years, it's very hard when you lose a loved one or a tragedy like that. I'm sorry, tonight it's like everything's a tongue twister. Lastly, I'm just trying to get back to life. My real life, I actually left to visit family that I haven't seen for years. So I'm just recently returning from Mexico. And I was very, it was very hopeful, and it was very supportive to see the the notification sent out to the families from our superintendent of the support to all the families, irregardless of their legal status, based on our new president and administration. So just having parents know that their kids are safe and that we are supporting families, and it's very important. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for being here tonight. I'm sorry. And so you are moving up. Now we have a report from superintendent.
Thank you. I'm going to read something so I don't miss anything here. First of all, I want to thank the board for trusting me to lead the district. It's an incredible, caring school community. I've seen Kendra now like 4 nights in a row, so thank you for being here, Kendra. I want to thank our leadership teams and our staff for their efforts to continue working with our students and family. Staff will have the opportunity to provide input for solutions, right? We talk about BMWs, bitch, moan, and whine sessions. That's not there, right? I always say we don't buy BMWs, right? We look for solutions. And that's my model, collaborative model, right? We are going to be in a tough time right now trying to right-size this district. But I have some ideas. I've got a great board here that understands those things. So we'll be working with our staff and definitely seeking input to make sure that our CUSD family understands that. I've already met with both presidents. I'm going to meet with a couple other key leaders to make sure that there's definitely input there. I visited each school site I walked and immersed myself within the community, attending soccer matches, which I love, at high school, watching the U9-10 baseball tryouts, walking and talking to people, walking down Main Street and along the coastal trails, spending time at the county library, listening and learning to our community members, asking about our schools. It's a small town feeling and a family first environment. Again, I'm very grateful for the opportunity and library card. I mean, that was the first thing I did, right? So that's my second office, so you may see me there working. A few important things to bring to your attention. I want to share that I met with a community leader that would like to partner with us, and it was mentioned earlier on upgrading our Cunha baseball fields, our Cunha soccer fields, and our Half Moon Bay High School baseball fields. We both felt that it would be great to include community subject matter experts such as coaches and players. I've asked Jennifer Marsh to start the process, and I'm inviting any board members that want to be a part of that committee to let Jennifer know by next Friday. You want to be part of this master plan, not master plan, the athletic facilities, just let Jennifer know. But we're going to move forward with seeking community input there as well. And then last and most importantly, I'd like to thank our staff, led by our Deputy Superintendent, Leticia Batia, and her team, to create an immigration response action plan. And let me tell you, that was part of the interview when I spoke to this board. They care deeply about the immigrant community and all the different community members that represent CUSD. So I want to thank Leticia for the effort and her team that came out. My letter did go out last week with a statement for resources and families. We've communicated and trained our administrative teams, and we'll continue monitoring and collaborating. We're asking everybody, if somebody does show up, to send them to the district office, and a higher level executive member will meet with the ICE agents here. Okay, I want to take the things off of the school sites, bring them to us, and we will work with whatever we need to work with, right? And so, did attend a superintendent San Mateo County meeting, other superintendents, great group of people, dialogue, got some good ideas. We are planning on monitoring that, and we're ready just in case. And it doesn't necessarily have to happen here, but they may have family members in Bakersfield, in Fresno, and other areas that they know that are gone. We need to really be observant of our student population, right? And make sure that they know that there's a place that they can go to and feel secure and safe. And we'll present next month. We'll do a presentation for the board to make sure it's publicly out there. And again, continue to add resources and work with our community partners out there. And again, thank you for the opportunity, and I'm humbled to be here serving as your interim superintendent. Thank you.
Can I share something before we move on?
Of course.
I just want to share that we have a brand new agenda platform over there. And it has very cool features like the subscribe feature, where you can subscribe to receive board agendas when they're published. We also have the agenda split view, when you can see on one side the agenda layout and on the other side the supporting documents. So it's very cool to see the agenda side by side. So check it out. It's there. It's a link to the website on the homepage.
Thank you, Rosie. Do you like it?
I do. It gave us a very hard time at the beginning, but but it has some glitches, but it's working now. It's a still work in progress, but I like it.
So as long as you like it, we like it. And you know, I'm trying to get used to this format because I'm like, what are we doing now?
Oh, we are not doing it, but on this platform, you can do the live voting where I can say, hey, vote on this item, and it will be projected, and then you can vote. But we're still practicing. We're still
Baby steps, baby steps.
Yes.
Yes. One step at a time. Okay. So now we are closing, close of session to our
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
We don't adjourn the meeting. We just need to move to closed session.
We're moving to closed session.
Yeah, and we have one item on closed session, is conference with labor negotiators. We motion to adjourn after closed session. Thank you.
We'll go in here.
Because we have to.